Hello everyone and welcome back to the Dork Side. I am the Dork in the Road, and today, here it is at long last, my full comprehensive review of the 2020 Bashan Brozz 250 Recon Edition Chinese dual sport motorcycle. That's right everyone, I am the Dork in the Road and I want to be your internet riding buddy. And I'm better than your regular riding buddies because I'm available whenever you want and I come with a mute button. So please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on those notifications so that you know when I post awesome new dual sport and adventure motorcycling content just like this. So this is the 2020 Bashan Brozz 250. It is a Chinese dual sport motorcycle. I've had it for a couple months now. Put about 250 miles on it. I've ridden it on-road, off-road, I've had it on the freeway, I've done extended road tests, and just yesterday I did the full dual sport experience, riding it an hour out to a local riding area on the highway, riding around, exploring the woods, and then riding back on the highway afterwards. So it's a little muddy, a little dirty, and I didn't clean it up because I want you to see that I've actually ridden the thing. So throughout this video, I'm going to intersperse a little bit of footage of yesterday's adventure on this bike. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the basics about this motorcycle, it's a 229cc single-cylinder dual sport. It has front and rear disc brakes, 19-inch front wheel, 17 inches in the rear. The Recon model comes with these 90-10 DOT knobbies, and the regular Brozz comes with 50-50 tires. They aren't as knobby, a little bit more street focused. It's a 5-speed manual, has a stated max speed of 70 miles per hour, which I can say ish. You can go a little faster in my experience. It's air-cooled, has 15 horsepower. You can get it delivered directly to your door for $1,950 total. The bike will come in a crate. You have to assemble it yourself. You can see what that looks like in the video that I made of me doing it, but I will tell you that if you're not mechanically inclined, it's not as intimidating as you think. I don't consider myself a great mechanic, but I manage. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. But if you want to buy one assembled, you can also buy them from a dealer, and that will cost you $2,500-ish MSRP if you can find a dealer near you. They're street legal in 49 states. California, unfortunately, they are not street legal, and you can get a lot of information about these bikes at brozz250.com. They're imported by a company called Peace Sports in Georgia, and they're the ones that will send it directly to your door. You just got to talk to my boy Jeff. So full disclosure, I did not buy this motorcycle. Peace Sports sent it to me to test and make content on. The only strings attached to that were that I would include the 3 things I just told you and make videos and content on it. But there was no, you have to give us a favorable review, none of that. So what you're going to hear is my honest opinion based on my time with the bike. What are the pros? What are the advantages? What are all the good things that I can recommend about this Chinese dual sport? So there's a ton of features that are surprising, especially considering the price. It's got front and rear disc brakes, as I said. It comes with a remote start and an alarm, which is, I don't know if that's a feature that you need necessarily for this type of bike, but it is kind of fun. It's definitely above and beyond. I've never seen any other dual sport with those 2 things standard. It's got steel braided brake cables, as you might be able to see here. The foot pegs have removable rubber inserts. They're a little narrow, but you have the option of the vibration dampening rubber inserts, and then you can take those out when you're riding off-road to get a little bit grippier on the metal foot pegs. It's got a kickstart lever along with electric start. It has inverted forks, as you can see. The dash is all digital. There's a fuel gauge, which not every dual sport has, I can tell you. My 250L does, but most dual sports do not have a fuel gauge. LED turn signals, standard on this bad boy, and they're really bright, actually. It comes with, it's a very comfortable, by dual sport standard seat. I've been told it's memory foam. I don't know if that's exactly true, but it definitely feels like memory foam. It's a lot wider than a typical dual sport seat, so it's a little bit more comfortable that way. The wheels are spoked, and it also comes with a skid plate, a very basic skid plate, but it does cover the bottom of the engine nonetheless. Those are some of the features that this bike comes with that, like I said, you wouldn't normally find on a low-end dual sport at all, let alone one that only costs $2,000. A few other things I like about it. It's got the versatility of being street legal, but still it's capable enough to take off-road. So if you need to connect trails or you're just looking for a bike that you can dink around town on, but also take up in the woods, a dual sport is the way to go, and this is one of the cheapest ways that I'm aware of to get into one. The customer service, I will tell you from experience from Peace Sports, and particularly from Jeff, is fantastic. And that's not just my experience. I've read a ton of just really positive feedback about their customer service as a dealership, and Jeff specifically, on the China Riders Forum and various other places on the internet. The bike it's pretty capable. I don't know what I was expecting, but You can see from my off-road test and the footage that, from my adventure yesterday, it can do forest roads, it can do abandoned roads. I've even jumped the thing a little bit. It can handle mud, especially these tires are really surprisingly good. That was a very pleasant surprise. They hook up incredibly well. It's just pretty capable for what it is. And I also kind of like that it's light and lower to the ground than my CRF 250L, so it's kind of easy to throw around, make adjustments on. It's pretty confidence inspiring, so it's reasonably capable as long as you're not trying to ask it to do something well beyond what it's built for. But in terms of light off-roading, getting you up and around the forest, that kind of exploring, it's really great. It's surprisingly capable. And one unexpected benefit, and I guess it's a disadvantage depending on how antisocial you are, but people are constantly asking me about this thing. Every time I get gas, someone asks me, oh, what is that? Where'd you get it? What's it cost? What kind of bike is that? My neighbor came over immediately when he saw the thing. He's actually thinking about getting one himself. It's unique. It's something that people haven't seen or heard of, and it really, I think, draws a lot of attention. So that's what I like about it. Here's a few things I don't like about it. Overall, sort of the big elephant in the room is also one that I can't really answer, but the first comment you always get when you're like, oh, Chinese bike is not really reliable, don't last very long. So that's something that is often mentioned. Those concerns may be overblown. This is a motor based on old Honda technology, and it's a proven engine. There are tens of thousands of them putting around Thailand and South America right now. It may be that the quality control is hit or miss, and you only hear about the ones that don't do so well. But honestly, I'm not sure if all that concern about reliability and all that is warranted. And I can't really say because I haven't had it long enough to tell you, but I'll of course update you if in the future anything happens that would cause me to change that opinion. It's lower overall build quality than, say, a Japanese bike, but that's because you're paying so much less. You can kind of tell that the switches are made of a little bit cheaper plastic and the metal's a little thinner on the passenger foot peg mounts, things like that, but that's how you get a bike down to $2,000. So just be aware of that, know what you're getting yourself into, and in terms of long-term viability, I don't know, but I will tell you that it is a simple, dead simple engine, easy to work on if you need to, and it's pretty obvious that you can get all the parts you need directly from P Sports. So in terms of getting replacement parts to fix and work on it, I think that that's probably something that you would be able to do if you needed to. Another disadvantage is the 19-inch front wheel. Most dual sports have a 21-inch front wheel, so that makes it a little harder to roll over obstacles. It hasn't really slowed me down a ton, and I will tell you one advantage to the smaller front wheel is that it fits in the back of my truck easier than my CRF, so there is that. Stock mirrors are never really good. These have a decent enough field of view when you can get them adjusted right, but they're kind of floppy. Like a strong breeze moves them. You're basically constantly having to adjust them at highway speed. I mean, nobody buys a dual sport for the mirrors, but just something to be aware of. The paint is easily scratched. I don't know if you saw the freeway video where my tank bag came loose, but it was moving around quite a bit and the tank's got some scratches on it. So the bike is very light, which is an advantage off-road, but a kind of a disadvantage on-road. I was driving down the highway yesterday and a semi came at me and I wasn't fully prepared for it, and it was a little bit like getting hit in the face. Like it blew me all over the place. So a much lighter bike like this at highway speeds can be a little terrifying. You have to put it together, so for some that is a disadvantage. It has a carburetor, so this is my first carbureted bike, but it is inconvenient to have to choke it and let it warm up a little bit every time you ride it, and then to think about the choke as you're riding down the road and it's warmed up enough to turn it off. It hasn't kept me from riding it or stopped it from functioning when I needed it to, and it's fine once it's warmed up. The suspension is interesting because it's almost too stiff when you hit small bumps, but it does not do much to absorb big bumps. And like most dual sports, I wouldn't call it comfortable for highway speed travel. So after about 30 minutes or so, you're going to want to stop and get off. You're going to be feeling it. It can do it. It's possible. It'll get you there, but it's buzzy. It's wound all the way out at highway speeds. The seat, while more comfortable than most dual sports, is still not like a plush seat concept seat or anything. Really, the thing to think about with this bike is who is it for? Who is it built for? Because a lot of the people that are asking the questions are established dual sport riders, people with some skills, people that are moderate to advanced. And they always criticize the bike for its lack of capability or reliability, but these are people that put thousands of miles on their bikes, ride them very hard, and or frankly know what they're doing. And a bike like this is probably not going to satisfy you even if it has none of those concerns, because it's going to be underpowered for what you want to do, undersprung, it's going to be too short, it's not going to handle all the crazy trail riding and just the more hardcore long distance stuff that some of you do. It's really not for dual sport veterans, unless like me, you just like the the idea of having a cheap, inexpensive bike to beat on, or to have a second bike, a guest bike, if you will, for people who are trying to ease into the sport of dual sport riding. But I'm not going to take it out and do the exact same things that I would do on my CRF 250L. It's really best suited for, in my opinion, your beginner dual sport rider or your brand new motorcycle rider. I think it's unintimidating. All the things that I said are disadvantages to experienced riders become advantages in that case. It's low seat height, it's lightweight, it's easy to handle, the power is not intimidating or surprising. It'll do everything you need it to do, but it's not dangerous. It will not surprise you. It cannot get away from you. It just simply doesn't have the capability. It's really great if maybe you are a street rider and you want to try out dual sport riding. You want to get out and explore the woods or the backcountry or whatever you've got near you, but you don't want to sink a bunch of money into the sport until you know for sure that you like it. There is no cheaper, easier way to get into dual sport riding than picking up one of these bikes and heading out in your street gear. You cannot do it cheaper, at least not as reliably. Obviously, you could get a 15-year-old dual sport bike for maybe the same amount, but that's hit or miss. This, you get a brand new bike that you get to break in yourself. You know it's going to work for you, and you're still only out $2,000 if you decide, dual sport riding's not really for me. If you have a short commute and you also want to ride in the woods on your weekends, this would be a great bike that would do it all for you. But if you have a longer highway commute, I wouldn't necessarily suggest this bike specifically. So if you're sitting there with a lot of experience going, man, would this be a great upgrade for me from my WR250R? No. But if you're sitting there going, man, I'd like to try riding off-road, or man, I'd like to get my wife or girlfriend or my buddy or my kid into riding off-road, but I don't want to spend a bunch of money and then have them decide it's not for them. This is a great bike for that. It's almost perfect for it. Overall, here's what you have to think about when you think about this bike. People are constantly asking me, is it as good as your CRF 250L? I get that question a ton. Okay, and the answer to that is no. It costs less than half as much. The question is not, is it as good as something that costs twice as much? It's, is the value for your dollar higher or the same? Is it half as good as a bike that costs twice as much? And the answer to that question is overwhelmingly yes and then some. I think the value for your dollar with a bike like this that is capable and has everything you need to go into the woods right now, tomorrow, the day after you get it and put it together, for $2,000 is incredibly high. It's not 50% as capable as my CRF 250L. It's more like 70 or 80% as capable. It can do all the same things, just slower. It is a great bike for a beginner, but I think if this is a bike you want to hang on to long term, you're definitely going to want to either have some mechanical skill or be willing to learn them. It's a great bike to learn how to wrench on. It's very simple. I think it's a great bike to learn all that. I don't think that's a con necessarily. It's almost an advantage because you've got a low-cost bike that you don't worry about messing up to learn those mechanical skills on. This bike will exceed your expectations. It has exceeded my expectations at every turn. I don't know what I thought. I think, you hear about Chinese bikes, you hear, they're not as good, they're underwhelming. If you can get your hands on one to ride it, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I have been. There's no cheaper way to get into dual sport or adventure riding and get yourself a brand new bike that you could break in yourself. If there's a perfect beginner bike for someone who is unsure that they're going to continue to do this hobby, this sport, whatever we want to call it, there's no better way. No better way to get in. Here's the bottom line. If you want a bike you'll ride for 10 years and put thousands of miles on, then maybe it would be a better value for your money to invest in a Japanese bike like a 250L or a WR250R. But you have to know that you're going to hang on to that same bike and enjoy it just as much for a long time before the value for your money starts to outweigh what the value you get with this thing, spending $2,000 and getting it right away. If you're trying to get into dual sport riding in a cost-effective way, or you're trying to get somebody else into dual sport riding in a cost-effective way, you're willing to do minor wrenching on your motorcycle, and you just want to get into the woods or ride around town a little bit and explore and know that you'll have the capability to handle whatever gets thrown at you, maybe a little slower than a more expensive bike, but it'll still make it happen and get through whatever you need it to, and you don't have to worry too much about it falling apart on you or being super complicated to fix. You're not looking to commit to thousands of miles and many, many years of riding. You just know that you want to give it a shot now and see how you like it. The Brozz is the perfect bike for that. It is the perfect first dual sport for someone who wants to try it out. It's to dip your feet into the pool of dual sport and off-road riding motorcycle. The only thing more perfect would be borrowing somebody else's that you can give back if you don't like it. If you're an established rider like me and you occasionally go riding with friends that don't have motorcycles, this is a great cheap way to have an extra guest bike on hand to take people riding with you as well. My final thought, my actual conclusion. Dork, one sentence. What do you think about this bike? What do you think of the Brozz? One sentence. It's this. It's the cheapest, easiest first step into the world of dual sport riding, period. It's not the most capable or amazing bike in the world, but it is a great value. If you have any questions about the Brozz, please leave them in the comments. If you want to check out the other videos that I made on the bras and see what it looks like in action, I'll put links to those below. But for now, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and as always, please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!
I want to get chocolate wasted.
Well, Brozzy, you done good. You done good.
And it's tan, so that's a cool color. They make these in green too. So, Brozz, you heard all that. What do you think? Tell the people your opinion.
Interesting.